Undertale. So if you're still watching my channel or you somehow found this video, I absolutely refuse to believe you haven't played Undertale. But if by some bizarre situation you have not, go give the game a play before proceeding. So much of its meta-narrative relies on playing the game within the proper context, and in some parts of the game, you're actually admitting defeat if you resolve yourself to merely watching it. So before I even get started on the game and its relation to itself and the world it exists in, let's touch on the philosophy of pacifism, which is a central theme in the game. Pacifism is an ancient way of thought. It's actually pretty impossible to date, because as long as we have been writing, writers have written about a world filled with peace. But an excellent summary of what the idea is about, let's examine the Hindu attitude towards pacifism. Hindu being the oldest practiced religion. One of the primary virtues in Hinduism is ahimsa, and this virtue is where we pull many of our ideas of true pacifism. Ahimsa holds that all living things, no matter how small or insignificant, have a spark of the divine. Being then that all things are made from this same spark, to hurt another living thing is tantamount to hurting oneself. While this practice gets much more complex when applied to concepts like war or self-defense, it can easily be understood with the phrase, "Hurting any part of the universe, I only hurt myself. I am the universe." With that microspore atom-sized amount of information about pacifism, let's dive into Undertale. Without going over too much of what's found in abundance elsewhere, Undertale is a game that has basically made three powerful claims to fame. The first is that it has excellent music. The second is that it has excellent characters, and the third and most important thing is that it plays several fourth-wall-breaking little tricks that make meta-narrative statements about the game itself and also games in general. What does that mean? Okay, a meta-narrative statement in reference to media is something within that narrative that makes a statement about something outside of the narrative. In postmodern philosophy, on the other hand, meta-narrative literally means a story about a story. A narrative about a narrative. It is generally used as a way to offer some group a means of escaping a bad situation through some new master plan. It is to Undertale's strength that it uses both the postmodern meaning and the meaning within reference to video games in general. The most common little trick in a meta-narrative story is that of the fourth wall break, a little wink to the audience to let them know to pay attention, or that the next part is specifically for them to pay attention to. This is Prospero's speech at the end of The Tempest. This is the image of Soshana laughing in the flames in Inglourious Basterds. This is Mario giving you a V for victory at the end of a level in Super Mario Bros. Undertale wears these fourth wall breaks on its sleeve. It actually goes a bit out of its way to let you know that you're playing a game, which in the age of Oculus Rift and 3D surround sound is a bit odd. Most games aim for immersion, but that's not the case with Undertale. Matter of fact, the very mechanics of the game seem to want you to realize that it's a game. It's set up like an RPG but plays like a bullet hell. The mechanics of the game seem to intentionally clash a little bit, going out of the game to further gamify situations that are already gamey? From a philosophical perspective, this is quite fascinating as a means to understand broader themes within a medium. And from an artistic standpoint, it allows us to better take in other related media because of the increased perspective. The Dark Knight Returns did the same thing for comic books in the 80s. From a postmodern philosophical point of view, the most common use of a meta-narrative is to tell a story that allegorically resembles the struggle of a group of people, and ideally a method to overcome that struggle. This is Fiddler on the Roof, and the challenge for some people of faith to choose between tradition and change, and to show the struggle of living in a world divided. This is Animal Farm, showing us that socialism requires giving more power to certain individuals to enforce the rules, thus defeating the purpose of the equality of socialism. This is Kingdom Come, representing the struggle to keep traditional values in change and show the struggles of living in a world divided. Huh, never thought of that before. Anyway, so what does Undertale's meta-narrative techniques teach us about RPGs and video games in general? From an artistic point of view, well, there's obviously the paper-thin examination that we kill things in video games without much thought, but if that's all you take from this, I feel you're missing the stronger and more important points for a message spec off the line delivered much better. Heck, off-delivered that message much better. No, to me the most important thing Undertale has to say about video games isn't based so much on things that happen in the game, but rather the parts of the game that you carry with you. Well, let me explain. We've all seen games that have characters that are jokesters, characters that have great destinies, characters that have an irrational hatred of something that gets explained in a tragic backstory, and a game that seems to exist in a different world than the fighting system. Undertale has all of those things, but by making intentional commentary on them, gets away with reusing those tropes for the purpose of creating a meta-narrative that I think aims to cause the player to reevaluate the way they encounter those tropes in general. For instance, let's examine who I think is the best character in Undertale, Asgore. Asgore is billed to be the final boss of Undertale. He's constantly referred to as a human-killing powerful monster, but at the same time, he is constantly called fluffy and kind. His people love him. His theme is a literal reference to a trope within Germanic lore, and yet he is not the hero of this story that by all regular means he or Undyne deserve to be. Asgore is the hardest fair fight in the game, and yet it's him that continuously goads you into continuing. He breaks the mercy bar, meaning that fighting is the only option. But he does this because he thinks that he is unworthy of mercy. Asgore is the final boss, the last perceived challenge to overcome, and yet he plays the role like a father that has long neglected his child, unable to even look you in the face, unable to bring himself to the ends he has cooked up. With those twists on a trope, Asgore becomes more than a final boss. He becomes a symbol of the motivations of all good villains, a character that one can't help but side with, at least somewhat, when viewing the whole picture. A character not bloodthirsty by nature, but brought to commit unspeakable acts that he himself cannot come to terms with. A character with a big heart that has chosen to close it off. I dare you to play Undertale and then have the propensity to look at another final boss the same way again. Undertale is a game that the creator wanted to be carried after the initial playthrough. He wanted Undertale to cause a reflexive, "I've seen this before," so that by examining those tropes, the player would take them along for examinations the next time they saw the same tropes. Now, on the postmodern side of things, Undertale is a story that represents a group of people that are trapped in a situation, and see violence towards a group of individuals they have probably never met before to be the only solution. It gives us a world and then three possible outcomes: to either retain the status quo, to forego violence by any means and find a happy solution for everyone involved, or to grow tired of trying the peaceful way, and to destroy simply for the sake of destroying. To me, this is such a relatable idea in regards to building family relationships, but really how you choose to apply this meta-narrative in a postmodern sense says more about who you are than it does about what the game is actually about. After all, the postmodern adage is that there are as many realities as there are people. So if you really dig on the postmodern meta-narrative thing, I can't recommend Jean-Francois Lyotard's The Diffident enough. It's really much of the groundwork for this style of thinking. On the other hand, if you're interested in the fourth wall style meta-narrative, check out one of the works I mentioned in reference. Those are honestly the first things that come to my head when I think of things like that. Anyway, let's see if I manage to stick around this time. But until next time, stay hungry, Philosotakus.